need 2 rings. We'll give you one ring.
Yeah.
Maybe. Put them together. Which one we got?
All right, so we got a question here for everybody, and that is, did you like it the way that we did it this past time? I know we had some craziness towards the end trying to catch up, but getting all the papers printed out and doing the questions. Questions seem to go just fine. Yeah, y'all like the questions? What about the other handout material? Is that good? Not necessary? I guess raise your hand. Is it? It's good. It's good. So, well, good for you. You want him to teach all the time?
Welcome to my world,
Man. Well, where is he this week, huh? I don't see him anywhere. Yeah. I see. I don't let you ask enough questions. That's
what we told him last week. The other people does ask questions.
He's like, so now we can ask questions, okay? Anybody? Okay. Well, listen. If you need to ask questions, that's fine. Write them down and throw them away on your way out, okay? I used to go put you go put it in the question box, and then I won't answer it, okay? Because that's what I do around here, evidently. No, so I would have had stuff for us tonight, and I'll get this at least by Sunday so that everybody can take part in next week. But we are evidently out of copy paper. So I went in. I mean, I don't know. I've killed like 3 trees this past quarter. So, I mean, so we're just out of copy paper. So I got to go get some more, I guess. I meant to ask who was in charge of that. I've ordered it some, but randomly it's gotten. So we'll have that. So if you got your cards, I'm sorry I don't have any paperwork for you, and I'll go with it. And also too, I heard a little, little bird told me that the kids were hoping to, at the end of this quarter, challenge the adults on their card knowledge. So I'm just telling you, you want to know these. All right, so get ready, because look, guys, don't make me look bad, okay? That's all I got to say. Don't make Justin, I'm looking at you. You answer all of these questions single-handedly. That's all I'm looking for. All right, so the first question is a testament is, now the card says this. We'll go over what the card says. An agreement or contract given to man by God. Of course, this is very specific to our purposes here in this class. Oftentimes, we'll swap out that word with what? Will. Many of us, I'm sure, maybe even all of us, have a will. And on that will, it'll say the what? The last will and testament. It is a contract, And in those contracts, you can put whatever you want in there. You can say, hey, I want to give, all of my, worldly properties to, kid A or whatever, and then, I'm going to give the money that's in my accounts to this child, or maybe split it up evenly amongst everybody. own a business. Business goes to this child, this family member. You write out whatever you want, and what has to happen, whenever you get those wills. If you get a will, you go, you know what, I don't like that. Pretty much, what do you get? Just get what you're told, right? Tough cookie. You don't like it. You don't like that dad made this decision. Tough cookie. That's it. So in times too, when it comes down to a will, people make very specific decisions. I've heard of people that they did like we just went through. They had one person was really good with realty, and so they're like, hey, give them all of the physical land. They had enough money that it was comparable to give one of the other kids the money that was in the bank account. And they did just that. They're like, here, this person's really good with money. This is going to be a better blessing to this child than it will be this other child who will blow it. And then, then you've got this other one who's been working in the business with their parents. And like, give this kid the business. Nobody else has done this. This is the kid that's got the business mindset here, and we'll do it this way. So even with the wills, sometimes there are certain things that come more naturally to some than to others, and it is tailored in those ways. But when we get down to what the New Testament is that contract given to us by God. And what if I just say, I don't like that? Again, tough cookie. That's it. Sorry. My bad. Not really. Say what? Yeah. It's a covenant. This is a covenant. So yeah, and even some I've seen some Bibles that actually use that word, Old Covenant, New Covenant. Yeah. So same thing here. So of course, let's talk about this real quick before we get into the next thing. But according to Hebrews chapter 9, verses 15 through 17, we see that we have a new covenant, this New Testament. And at what point in time is the New Testament in force? What has to happen first? You had to have a death first. You can't just say, you know what, I think I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna go ahead without the death of Christ and try to do things differently. Matter of fact, I've actually talked to people that they, especially when talking about the thief on the cross, I've had people go, "Oh well, he didn't have to be baptized." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, right. Why?" He's not. I walked through this with somebody one time. It was hilarious doing this, but well, he wasn't baptized. Thief on the cross wasn't baptized. Yeah, why wasn't he baptized? Number one, he was attached to a cross. No getting down off of that. What? Well, I've had people say that, but here's the thing. I think that the biggest thing is, well, number one, when Jesus tells you, Jesus speaks directly to you and says that, then it is what it is. But then the next part of that is, it's not in the New Covenant. He's not in the New Covenant. New Covenant is requires baptism, not in the New Covenant. And this person's like, how do you know he wasn't in the New Covenant? I was like, because Jesus was alive right next to him, telling him, you're going to be with me in paradise. I think that really necessitates a thought process here of he's not in the New Covenant, seeing as Jesus is still alive. It is funny though when you get down to it. But look at Hebrews chapter 9 with me. See if I want to read that out for us.
15 through 17.
Yes, 15 through 17.
Those who are called whom receive the promises of the eternal inheritance. For where there is a testament, there must also of necessity be the death of the testator. course, after men are dead. Since it has no power at all, well, that's what it is.
Yeah. So you got to have, Jesus had to die for this new will to get into effect. Now, listen, I've had people say, oh, well, in America, we have power of attorney. They try to overcomplicate this. There's no overcomplicating this. By and large, just even in America. Now, this would have been different at the time. This would have just been it. There wouldn't have been anything else. That's the big problem that anybody has when studying the Bible is not keeping things in the context. We're not talking about 2022 in America. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about first century Jesus walking around and then dying and this new covenant coming into effect. That we got to keep things in the context. I've even found that to be the case with preachers that get off on anything, big or small. It's because they haven't kept things in the context. Because when you do that, you don't make a whole lot of mistakes. You got to look at. Do you have any questions? Oh, okay, very good. Just asking in case anybody wanted. So, you know what? You're so gracious. Thank you. But you know what? I did forget that, didn't I? Well, I'll have to. I'm telling you what. I can't do everything. I'm trying to run this and run this. All right, moving on. So, number 2. What is the purpose of the New Testament? Now, undercards, it's to save all men. I got to make sure I see what these cards say, because it's just slightly different, than what you think, just to fit on a card. But, that's pretty easy to understand. Jesus came, He died so that we could be saved. That's pretty easy to understand. That is in effect, the entirety of the New Testament. But take that a step further, it's really the entirety of the Bible, isn't it? That and we were talking about this actually, Brother Carol and I on Sunday morning. If you've got the Old Testament, we oftentimes talk about, obviously from Hebrews we see, what about the blood of bulls and goats? What can it not do? It cannot save the individual. It can't free them from their sin. What did that do? The offering up of bulls and goats. Yeah, deferred it until later. That's a good way to put it. I've heard this. I've said this. Kind of rolled it back until the time of Christ. So, if you are obedient under the old covenant, at what point are you saved? When Jesus died, right? Now, you think about that. You've been obedient. You die. Then you've done what you're supposed to. Then Jesus takes over from there. Really the same thing in the new covenant. You have to be obedient, and you die. If you die with being obedient, then, Jesus has taken care of the rest. We need to be a little bit more, I guess, pointed in this, because both the Old Testament and the New Testament require obedience. But you see that a lot of people in the religious world, that I think this is the big reason that there's this dichotomy of God in the Old Testament, God in the New Testament. They don't look at God being, God all the way through the Scriptures. It's just that here is God. He's harsh. He's in the Old Testament, and then you come to the New Testament. Here's God, and they look at God as being more loving. And I guess that's initially just because He sends a Son. But that's the whole purpose throughout the entirety of the Scriptures. When you read through the Scriptures and you are looking at it like, hey, this is eventually pointing to Christ, then you're going to see Christ. I mean, I remember doing this a long time ago. I hear these kids, you do too. I'm going to shut this door. I remember reading through the Bible with this mindset for the first time. And you see things, and you're like, oh, okay. And I remember, I probably like many other people, I got to Leviticus and I thought, Leviticus is a hard read. A lot of stuff, a lot of information. And I started going, I was dreading it. I was getting closer and closer to Leviticus, and I thought, this is where I'm going to slow down. I've had this momentum. This is where I'm going to slow down. It's going to become this big chore to read through Leviticus. But I had this mindset, I'm looking to Christ, and then I start saying Christ all through Leviticus. It made that read so much better in my mind. I was like, are you kidding me? Here it is. Here's another sacrifice. You know what? Here's another sacrifice. Here's another. When I get to the New Testament, I don't have to worry about those sacrifices anymore. What do I have? I've got one perfect sacrifice. And so, was that? Yeah, the sacrifice. There's only one. There are no substitutes even. So I was just amazed reading through Leviticus with that mindset. And so the New Testament is meant for us to be able to know what we are supposed to do in order to be saved. Because, you go from the beginning, and you look at the gospel accounts. The gospel accounts show us this. What does gospel mean? Good news. So we get the good news. I'll go ahead. I nitpicked in class for the teens when I did this. When you think about gospel means good news, how many gospels are there? Just one. Just one. So many times I'll hear even preachers get up and be like, gotta look to the gospels. I'm like, the gospel, plural? Like, that's not even a thing. There's the gospel. There are 4 gospel accounts, but there's just one gospel. There's one good news, and that is the good news of Jesus Christ. I know sometimes people think, well, Matt, that's kind of nitpicky, don't you think? I really don't think that one's too nitpicky. I think that's pretty, pretty straightforward. There's not another good news. And I would even go and say, look at what the Mormons have done. Here's another testament, almost another gospel. This is another, no. There's just one. You've made up another. You have made up something fictitious. It's not good. Right. Yeah. And it's crazy when you look. If you ever want to get an idea of some of the things that were going on in the Mormon church when it first started, just go ahead and read the first Sherlock Holmes. Have you ever done that? Yeah? Go do that. Go do that, because you'll see the Mormon church in there. And it is interesting. And people go, oh, that's just a story. Not too far off. Not too far off. Go do that. That's an interesting read. And it's clean. And it's Sherlock Holmes, for crying out loud. You got to love Sherlock. But, Dr. Watson, he's all in there. This is good stuff, guys. Just go do it. And you'll see the point I'm making here. Yeah. Are they owned by?
Oh, the Marriott family was big time Mormons.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So at every Marriott hotel, you will find a book of Mormon next to the Bible.
Yeah. Sometimes we've done this in the past when we have time. We'll go through and we'll highlight passages in the Gideon Bible. We should go and highlight all the contradictions and take too long. But get that Mormon Bible or whatever, the Book of Mormon. But all right, so the purpose of the New Testament is simply to save men. And we see that. When I think about a summary of that thought, I think about John 12, verse 48. And we know that one. He that rejecteth me and receiveth not my words hath one that judgeth him. The words that I've spoken, the same shall judge him in the last day. So we need to focus on. Now, I tell you, I've repented of this, really. But I teach pretty solely out of the New Testament, and I realized that when we were going through the Old Testament stuff, I was like, I probably should preach out of the Old Testament. There's so many good things here, so I'm sorry about that. But the reasoning for that is where's salvation found? It's found in the New Testament. I'm not going to say I'm sorry for preaching from the New Testament so much, but I promise to give you some of those gems from the Old Testament because they're good. But yeah, so the New Testament, of course, is really more specifically toward us. We know that it's what teaches about the church, that, how we're going to get there, how we're going to get to heaven, what we need to do to be added to the church. All these things are there. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, before you move on, just thought, going back to that idea of how folks in the Old Testament gained salvation. I forget the preacher or where I heard it from, but one certain thing about that blood coming down the cross, it went in both directions.
Yeah.
And that was a great way to look at it because it did.
Yeah.
Those who were faithful.
Yeah. Yeah, you think about it, like going forward and then going back. The blood covered everything. I remember being in college and hearing this. This, we know what the sacrifice is for, but I remember sitting across from a guy, and we were talking about the Bible, and his girlfriend came in, and we're sitting eating dinner, and his girlfriend came in. She was sitting there, and she was quite a bit ditzy, and I remember sitting there going, we're having this conversation, and she's adding things here and there, and maybe they lacked value, I'll say that. But I remember her going, I wonder, sorry, she says, I wonder which part of that blood was for me. And I was like, what? Like all of it? Like where you? And then she goes like, no, like which drop? I'm like, which molecule? Like what is going on here? But yeah, it was pretty interesting. But yeah, the thing is that he died for all of us. His blood was for all of us. I don't think that there was a specific droplet for you. So don't worry about that. Let's not get into that. But how many books are in the New Testament? 27. New Testament written by 8 men. Now, I like to think about this one a little bit, but you go through and you can mention the 8 men in particular, but there's one man in particular that writes a majority of the New Testament. Who is that? Paul. Yeah, Paul writes majority of the New Testament. Have you ever felt this way? I've listened to preachers that were really just false teachers. They'll get on Facebook or something, and they'll start talking. And then they'll start talking about Paul, and they'll take Paul out of context, and they'll say all things about Paul. And I tell you what, I have on occasion thought, I get angry, and I'm like, don't talk about my Paul like that. He's my brother. He's not your brother. You're not following half of what he was saying. Don't talk. That would be the same thing if someone were talking about, Jeff and just, saying things about him that I knew that he wouldn't say, and trying to say, maybe even talk down about Jeff. I'd be pretty upset. I'd be like, I'd let him go for a minute. I agree with a little bit of it. No, I'm just kidding. But I'd be upset. I'd be like, that's my brother there. And you think about even his writings. People are oftentimes taking his writings out of context. And man, I tell you, that is painful. That is very painful. Anybody have any comments or questions? No questions. No questions. She's not even going to look at me now. All right. The number 5 on your cards is inspired by God, and that is the New Testament. Obviously, these are all, of course, very easy. We're in the beginning. They'll get a little bit more complicated as we go along and trying to remember things. But when we say that the Bible, especially the New Testament, is inspired by God, what do we mean by that?
God spoke them and wrote.
Yep. So it's God breathed. That's literally what the word means. God breathed. Think about in the beginning, what happened when God breathed. Yeah, He gave life. And so in the New Testament, we get the breath of God again. And in the New Testament, He has breathed life into us that way. In 2 Timothy 3 and verse 16, we know that one pretty well. All Scripture is what? Given by inspiration of God. We know that according to 2 Peter 1 and verse 20, that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Let's delve into that for a minute. What do we mean by that? No prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. So, have you ever heard someone say, "Oh, that's just your interpretation"? What are they doing when they say that? Yeah, well, they're doing that, but they're going, that's just your interpretation. Go ahead.
That doesn't fit my interpretation.
Right, yeah. I think a little bit differently on that. Yeah, I think that, what you said, that was good and all, but I think a little bit. Now, how do we answer that? Of course, we have this passage, but keeping this passage in the context here, how do we answer people that are like, oh, Yeah, so look, I cannot interpret the Scriptures in any way I just want to. I have been in Bible classes where the teacher would get up and he would read a passage or something and say a few words and then say something like, well, what does that mean to you? Have you ever heard anybody do that? What does that mean to you? That's a terrible question. The real question is, what does that mean? I don't need to. I don't need anything. What does that mean to me? Maybe I can get into specific application. I know that that's not what was going on in the classes I was in. They were like, hey, what does that mean to you? Give us some. What is on your heart when you hear this passage? No, that's just not. That's not the right mindset. You know what? There are meanings to things. I was at a preacher's meeting one time, and we were discussing. I can't remember exactly what topic it was. We were discussing something, and I remember what it was. It was forgiveness. It was forgiveness, and we got into. I can't remember if the word was forgiveness or if it was something else, but one of the preachers said. We were talking about this word and the meaning of the word. And he said, well, I haven't really ever gotten that. That's not what that means to me. And I went, whoa there, horsey boy. You can't do that. You cannot say that's what, words have meanings. And they're definitive. That's why you have now my phone. It's Denver, Colorado. Does anybody know? I bet my insurance or warranty is out, and they're going to give me another one. My car debt? Ugh.
Car broke down, you had to find out and send you one of those warranties.
Oh, that's what they're doing. You want me to? So, getting back into that. So this guy, he's like, I don't take it that way. Like, you can do that. You can say that. That just makes you wrong. Because there is a definition here. It's not like we're getting into the nitty-gritty or we're like trying to make some applications. No, like this is a word. And the word means this. And you cannot say, I don't believe the word means that. It literally be. This would be like the same. And I may have even given this example. It's like someone comes in and goes, no, baptism doesn't mean immersion. Like, no, that's exactly what the word means. That's what the word means. You can try to make it mean anything else that you want to, but you're going to be wrong because this is what the word means. It was crazy, but that goes back into that, and it led to him being wrong on the subject of forgiveness because it was like, no, you can't just make up your own definition and think that that's okay. It's not okay. That's part of the beauty. Y'all remember this? We talked about this one time. It's part of the beauty of Koine Greek is that it was finite. Like, it only lasted for, 300 years or something like that? I can't remember the exact time frame. But it wasn't a long time, which meant that it didn't change a lot. Language changes. Koine Greek really didn't. It just kind of was there. And it has definitive terms here. So, yeah, no, we cannot just go our own way. And, when people are saying that, that's just your interpretation of it, bring them back here to 2 Peter. Look, the Bible's not up for any private interpretation. I can interpret it the way I want to, and you can interpret it the way you want to, but we have to find out how this all fits together. That's going to take some study because, we can't just... part of this is that when you find something, the rules of interpretation, I went over this a long time ago. You probably don't remember a single lick of it. But the rules of interpretation is that you first of all, you take it literally, unless it is ridiculous to take it literally. And then the next thing you have to do is you have to go through and make sure that it doesn't contradict something else in Scripture. Because if your thought process on whatever it is contradicts something else, then automatically that makes what you're teaching wrong. Because the Bible is perfect, it's complete. It's from God. It doesn't have flaws here. So...
Make that exact point of God so loved the world, right?
Right.
He loves the world, not me.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't contradict.
Right. Yeah. What time does it? Class ends at? Keith's not here,
7:38.
so we got a couple of minutes. Got a couple of minutes. All right. How does the New Testament begin? Genealogy. Why is that important?
Because it satisfies the prophecy and the lineage of Judah.
Yeah.
And all that.
Not to be flippant about it, but it really legitimizes Jesus.
Right. And really, when it comes down to it, and now it's helpful for us today, but what about back then? You got a genealogy?
They pride themselves.
Right.
Jews still pride themselves on genealogy.
Yeah, right.
That was big among Jews first century, even 21st century.
Yeah. Yeah, that was... Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, genealogy was a big, big deal. And it still is a big deal over there. So, yeah, it starts off with the genealogy. I have always wanted to do I've never done this, but I think about this every time I get to Matthew chapter 1. I thought it'd be nice to do like a sermon series. It'd take forever. But just go through every person in the genealogy that has anything to their name and just do sermons leading up to Christ. I mean, how cool would that be? It'd be cool. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. So there's lots of new things, which also shows you that there's a little bit of a shadow of things to come that the Gentiles are going to be able to be in the covenant.
When you teach this to kids, you basically have to tell them this is the begats section.
Yeah. Yep.
This is the begats section. Here's why it's important.
Yeah. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Yeah, so that would have been confusing to them at that time because you'd have some familial names, It's funny because like even in my family we have, probably everybody's family is like this to some degree, but we have a couple of names that run through the family quite frequently, and one of those names was Madison. And I wanted that to be I think it was Timothy. I was wanting to name Timothy Madison. And Autumn was like, that's a girl's name. And I was like, no, it's a man's name. And I was like, let's look it up. Let's see what it says. It's literally son of Matthew. And I was like, man, that's so cool. But But yeah, we do that today, but it was of much more importance back then. Yeah, to have a familial name and using, and they would repeat those, from generation to generation at times. Yeah, there we go. There we go. All right. Well, I guess that's it. And if anybody, has any other questions, then just write them down and throw them in the trash can like we discussed earlier. So, all right, guys. Thank you.